Okay, so hi everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and even good night for all of you. So thank you for opening my video. So in this time, I will try to share about what I've been learning. Anyway, before going to that materials or the topics, so let me introduce myself. I'm Sylvia Indiani. You can call me Sylvia. Currently, I'm a PhD student under Faculty of Food Industry, King Mongkut Institute of Technology, Ladkrabang. If you don't know where is it, it's in Thailand, of course. And so, yeah, today I will be sharing about nanotechnology in the food industry or in the food packaging. Okay, let's just begin. So this presentation will take about, let's say, 10 to 15 minutes. So, and if you have any questions, yeah, just drop down in the comment below there on my link. So this presentation will cover, like, give you the brief and the basic knowledge about nanotechnology, including also the trend in the food packaging, as well as the terminologies in the nanotechnology, like nanomaterials, nanocomposites, and how to synthesize or how to produce that kind of nanomaterials. And lastly, the most important things is the one that we really want to know, is it applicable to apply nanotechnology in the food industry nowadays? And then at last, we will just share about the challenges and the concern when we need to apply these technologies. Okay, without further ado, let's take a look on food packaging trends. We know these essential functions of food packaging, right? Starting from the containment, convenience, communications and marketing, and the protections and preservations. And we ever heard about smart packaging, right? And when we say about smart packaging, it refers to two different terminologies. The first is the active packaging, which more likely is focused on giving the protections and how to preserve, how to prolong the shelf life of the food itself. And the second one is the intelligent packaging, when the packaging is used to be the bridge between the food manufacturers and the consumers. So it's more likely how to communicate about the food quality and how good is it. And it's like kind of, the example is like when they can provide you the informations or the details about the products that you want to buy. It has been projected that the packaging sector is still being the most interesting topics or issue in the food trend 2021 this year and the next year for sure. Briefly, active packaging defines as any packaging design which can release some compounds to maintain the quality, then prolong the shelf life of the foods. Meanwhile, the intelligent packaging is designed to provide dynamic feedback to the consumers on the actual quality of the products. And nowadays, this technology has been collaborated with the eco-friendly, or we know as the biodegradable, when they are really economically friendly with the environmental as well. And nowadays, nanotechnology, as the main topic of my presentation today, has been considered as an attractive technology and extensively being applied in food industry. Nanotechnology is the design, synthesis, and applications of materials and devices whose size and shape have been engineered into nanoscale with a size of 1 to 10 nanometers. This technology is aimed to enhance the material's properties, not only limited for the physical, chemical, but also the mechanical and the electrical properties. This is the brief illustrations of the scope of nanotechnology application in food industry that is divided into two. The first is processing, when the nanoparticles or nanomaterials are used instead as food additives. And the second one is when we can apply the nanotechnology in the food packaging. Nanomaterials, as I mentioned before, it is the material which has the particle size between 1 to 100 nanometers. And it can be categorized based on their first is dimensions, sources, and the conformation. So it really depends, such as from the source, it can be categorized or inorganic or organic, and also from the conformations, we can see whether it's the porous or non-porous, kind of that. And for the dimensions, I will just explain for the next slides. Yeah, so here we got 4 dimensions, right? And the most famous one is at your right side. This is the 3 dimensions nanoparticles. And yeah, it is the nanomaterials can form many structure dimensions. It's really depending on the targeted properties. So when there's a question like, is it possible to make 3-dimension nanomaterials if we have the 0 dimension and other things? Yeah, that's the exactly definitions of the 3-dimension nanomaterials itself. We call this 3D nanomaterials as the nanocomposites. Okay, moving on to nanocomposite. What is it? So nanocomposite have 3 dimensions and consists of at least 2. So it means we can combine with other at least 2 or more materials with less than 100 nanometer in size. So it doesn't matter how many materials that we will incorporate with it, as long as we can maintain the size of the nanocomposite itself, not over than 100 nanometers. This diagram shows us the different dimensions of nanomaterials incorporated with polymer to form nanocomposites with a different morphological arrangement here. So basically, it's easy to make nanocomposite. Just provide the polymer, and then you also have the nanomaterials. It can be with any dimensions, and then we can just like blend it together. Then we will obtain the nanocomposite. However, if you remember when we mix like 2 different kind of compounds or elements, then it will interact, right? When they interact, they form different kind of interactions. As we can see at your at the down there, I will explain next slides. Here, we can see the 3 different structural properties when we make nanocomposites. Firstly, its tectoids are similar to microcomposites, and the second one is the intercalated morphology. It's like when the polymer chain fulfilling the gap between the nanoparticles. So in the material science, we call this the gap between the nanomaterials as the galleries. So these galleries, this is the place where the polymer will get into it. Lastly, is the exfoliated is when the nanomaterials are delaminated and homogeneously dispersed in the polymer. This is the most commonly happen when we make the nanocomposites. There are several methods used for coating, including by using nanocomposites. So basically, when we have the nanocomposites, we can apply into our food by using different kind of methods here. So like dipping is the conventional one, and the advanced will be electrospraying and fluid ascribe. So nanoparticles can be synthesized by 2 approaches methods. First is the bottom-up or projective method, is the structural binding from atom to cluster to nanoparticles. The second approach is the top-down. It means breaking down from the the big size of particle into smaller size, which is the targeted one is the nano size, right, that we want. And it is basically called as destructive approach that requires nanometric scale reduction of a bulk material to components. The thermal decomposition is the most favorable method for this approach. Another approach categorizes the synthesized method of nanomaterials into physical, chemical, and biological methods. So nowadays, lots of scientists, lots of research, they are doing the engineered nanomaterials. Why? Because they know that there's always a limitation when we have the pure materials. So we need to modify or engineer, do the modification to it, and to order to improve the properties when we incorporate into the nano composites. First is the nanosilver, which performs antimicrobials against several species of microorganisms or bacterials as follows here. Not only gram positives, but also gram negative itself. And the European Union already set the specific migration limit is 0.05 milligram per kilogram food or food simulant. Here's the applications, as if we remember, I think we remember all the day, when we go to the modern supermarket and then we see the set yogurt packed in the plastic here, and then the UHT milk. And here's some studies when they prove that when nanosilver was incorporated in the food packaging, it can inhibit the growth of both gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria, as well as inhibit the food spoilage. Nanosilica has been used both in coating and laminating food products. It enhances the mechanical properties of the films. Nanoclays basically have a complex structure with many elements. Why it's complex? So I'm going to show you in the next slide, but in the food packaging, the most used nanoclay is monomerilonite or MMT, and also bentonite. Basically, MMT is derivatives of from bentonite. And because of the complex structure of the clay, nanoclay, they can perform more possible morphology structure. So if we remember the first three morphology structure that I've been sharing to you, when we use the clay and incorporate it into food packaging and make the nanocomposite, it can form more possible structure of the morphological thing. For example, the most used nanoclay is MMT, in which consists of not only just one compound, for sure, consists of silica, aluminum, magnesium, iron, sodium, calcium, oxygen, and hydroxyl group. Number 4 is the nano-sized selenium, has been incorporated into PET, LDPE blend to produce the flexible packaging with antioxidant properties. And nanostarch is really well known as the biodegradable, natural, renewable, and non-toxic biomaterials that has been used not only in the food packaging, but also for other application in the food industry. And it has been extensively used for making food coating and films. Nanocellulose, also known as the biodegradable materials that can be sourced from food industry waste and called as nanowhiskers due to its structure. You can see here it's quite complex structure, right? Like the waste, the shape of the waste. When incorporated into nanocomposite, it produces a stable polymer with a high aspect ratio. Next is titanium nitride is used in production of PET bottles. And another titanium nanoparticles is the titanium dioxide that shows a UV blocking ability, and it has been proved that the smaller particle size shows the better performance for blocking the UV light. For the nanozinc oxide is able to absorb UV light and inhibit microbial growth as well. Iron oxide is also being used as a part in sausage casing. It also has the SML or specific migration limit. Magnesium oxide, known as food additives, and is recognized as generally recognized as safe. In this study, it was proved that the magnesium oxide nanoparticles could improve the tensile strength and other mechanical properties when it was incorporated in the PLA films at 2% of additions. Then, carbon nanotubes can be used to develop intelligent packaging, particularly the meat products. And here are engineered nanoparticles or nanomaterials that are being used commercially, and we can see from this table. The company based, mostly they're based on the USA, Japan, China, and Australia, and also the Korea also. So for the advanced application, we'll be focused on smart packaging. This is the basic concept of the nanocomposite. How does the nanocomposite protect the food from the contaminants or from the environment? So packaging with nanocomposite can inhibit the food deteriorations and spoilage. Nanocomposites can be formulated with bioactive compounds and applied in fruits and vegetables by coating methods, as shown here, by using dipping methods or spraying method. These are just the examples. Okay, the nanotechnology in food packaging. These figures explains us the key components of a typical active packaging system enabled by nanotechnology. Briefly, the active components are assembled using nanotechnology to produce an active component that can be integrated into a food package. The carrier can interact with internal and or external factors. We can see from the blue arrow there, thereby activating an intended action. We can see from the red arrow that enhances the shelf life, food quality, and or safety of the products. These are the examples of nanomaterials used in active packaging to prolong the shelf life of products via inhibiting microbial growth as well as ripening process. So, and this is the nanotechnology application in intelligent food packaging. The key elements of nanotechnology-based intelligent packaging system is shown here. So I'll just explain briefly. So the indicator or sensor fabricated using suitable nanotechnology can interact with internal factors such as food components and headspace species. And the internal factors will interact with external environmental factors, with the blue arrow there. As a result of these interactions, the indicator or sensor will generate a response such as visual cue or electrical signal that correlate with the state of the food product. The state means the quality of the actual conditions there. And this information generated is not only useful for communication with the consumers by informing them about the safety and quality of the products, but also can be used by the producer in their decision support systems to determine when and what action are to be taken throughout the entire product distribution channel and production process. Let's say if we see that the quality of the product is not good, and then it will send us the signal or response to the sensor, and then the food manufacturers will notice that, oh, this product is not good anymore, so we can decide later what we have to do if we find again this kind of this typical issue. These are the application of nanotechnology in intelligent food packaging, especially on meat, fruits, and vegetables. So in conclusion, nanotechnology is still attractive and beneficial in developing food packaging. It doesn't only help to maintain the quality and prolong the shelf life of foods, but also to deliver some important information to consumer. However, the challenges and concerns also exist when we develop something new, when we incorporate the novel technologies into the food. Because why? Because yeah, there's always been pros and cons when we develop something new, right? So the key points that I would like to highlight when we want to apply or develop the nanomaterials into food packaging is the first is the safety, because we are working with food and the consumer, we need to maintain the safety. This including the toxicological issues. It's not supposed to be toxic or harmful to the human health. And the second one is the cost benefit effectiveness from the economic side, and also the social acceptance, which need to be reconsidered by the food manufacturers. Okay, so here the reference that I used for my presentation this time. And thank you for your time, and hope to see you again next time. See you.